Baroness with purple. No, now wait a minute. We have red, blue, yellow, green, now purple. I know it's a little early to think about this, but I wonder what color they're going to go for next. I mean, Metallica has the Black Album, the Beatles have the White Album. What are they going to do now? Are we going to have to go into some offbeat colors like sky blue? That's already been done. Thanks, Devin. Or maybe chartreuse, sea green. Well, it's too early to think about that. Let's just talk about purple and focus on this, because this is a major release. This is probably the last major release of the heavy metal calendar here in 2015. And it comes off of the double album Yellow and Green, which was released 3 years ago in 2012. And ever since then, Baroness have encountered quite a bit. They encountered a pretty serious accident that caused a lot of time and just a lot of effort to be really focused more so on recovery than anything else. 2 members have left and were replaced, and now we have purple. We got our first taste of purple a couple of months ago with the song Chlorine and Wine, and it made us really excited about this disc. It made us realize that Baroness, for all intents and purposes, really knows how to focus and channel their sound in positive ways and just craft great singles. And with Shock Me, which came out a little bit ago, it reinforced that fact. And we need to start by talking about these 2 songs, because for one, Chlorine and Wine is the longest track on this disc, and it comes in at track number 6, and it is actually one that is directly influenced by track 5, which is Fugue, and together this crafts and creates a more than 9-minute long cycle of music that just is really awesome to behold. We all love the fact that Baroness is able to really craft some sludge, like some sludgy properties into their style of music, which it's one of the sides of this band that has made them really revered by a lot of fans. But the control that's on this and the ability to really transform something from very quiet to extremely bombastic is one thing that really causes that. They really are masters of both sides of that coin. Now, once again, as I stated in the track review of Chlorine and Wine, I'm reminded a lot of a track from a band called Embodiment whenever I listen to this, and that's not a bad thing whatsoever. In fact, it's an extremely positive thing that adds to the charm. But Shock Me, on the other hand, really reminds me more of a high energy single, one that reminds me a little more of songs off of Yellow and Green, such as Take My Bones Away, that really got you in the mood and really propelled you into the stratosphere whenever starting off that album. So whenever we look at the remainder of this disc, whenever we examine the other 8 tracks, what we notice is a very large strength still being present in Baroness's songwriting style. It's one where they're able to incorporate both of those same sides you saw on one track in Chlorine and Wine within each track of the remaining 8, whether it be a more high energy position, either that or one that takes a little bit more of a melodious approach. Songs such as Desperation Burns really showcase this band's ability to really rock out very hard and deliver a bit of a manifesto of sorts, but the same could also be said in retrospect on side A with a track such as Kerosene. So the high energy still remains very much a property of this band. The real sludge property is not one that is as much of a direct controlled influence. This is instead one that is placed in these tracks whenever it is necessary. It's something that is more of a natural link between them and a band such as Mastodon, and it's something where a true sludge band, a band that really just dives into sludge and stays there, these guys are moving a little bit further away from that. The production value on this album is a bit unique as far as Baroness is concerned. They have tapped into one of the former members of Mercury Rev, who, well, I think he may still be in the band, but he's now a producer extraordinaire. And if you have listened to Mercury Rev at all, you know that, especially their earlier works, you know that boombastic is kind of part of their real sound. And really having that sort of control over it is a very important facet of what they're all about. And that really transfers over to Baroness on this release. it showcases their ability to kind of take things to different extremes whenever it comes to sound quality, whether it be the boombostics raising up so high that you nearly get a little bit of clipping where you're literally right there on that uppermost tier, perhaps for your percussion, either that or your guitar work, to even cause a little bit of that clippy kind of damaged or decayed effect, which actually works out in some of the tracks where it is exhibited, to really focusing and channeling heavily on keeping the quieter moments of this album down and that hush tone in order to really amplify and further accentuate the theme that is behind that piece of music. So whenever you combine those two together, it almost sounds like a strange Jekyll and Hyde effect, but it isn't quite the same as, say, a group that splits that down the middle. This is instead one where these focuses are implemented extremely well when necessary, and only when necessary. What's interesting about this disc is the 17-second finale, Crossroads of Infinity. It's just kind of weird to see that as the very final piece that you hear from this group, but Baroness has always been noted as a band that does not exactly play by the rulebook, doesn't care to, and doesn't really have a desire to, and honestly, Yellow and Green can be a terrific example of this, considering they had enough material for one disc, but instead opted to put it on two and separate it into two different musical ideas, which really, in retrospect, was a wise choice. So, while they don't necessarily play by the rulebook, their reinvention of the rulebook or their interpretation of the rulebook certainly has some great value and makes a lot of sense. And on a musical level, once again, Baroness excels whenever it comes to just crafting tunes that have these very unique and simple properties to them, but making them sound larger than life, giving them so much speed and leg and power based off of the way they craft and based off of how it really ties in with the production, ties in with the artwork, and ties the whole entire package ties itself together and is delivered to fans with a nice little bow. It's crazy. It's really cool to see a band like this continue to excel. That being said, there are a couple shortcomings that this album boasts that I'll mention briefly, and the first one is that apart from some of the bigger tracks, this is one where the memory is not quite as noticeable as an overall album, apart from aside from albums such as Yellow and Green. This is one that does not quite have that same lasting power, lasting impact. Some of these tracks here just feel a little bit average, if not slightly above average. They're well-toned, they're well-crafted, but they just don't have that same lasting punch. Some may say that Yellow and Green had a little bit of fluff on them, and this is one where Purple is a single solitary album with a single solitary goal and does possess a little bit of that same fluff as well. Really, at this point, Red and Blue seems to really be the escalation points of this band's career, where their unique vision sort of took the world by storm, and now that the world kind of knows what they're all about, they need to continue to morph their sound and continue to add little tropes to it in order to keep up that real shock factor. And this is an album that doesn't feel like they've done nearly enough to incorporate or encourage that. It's not a bad thing, that's not a dig, because it's still a mighty fine album. This is one that still is looking to perhaps take everything that we thought about the top 50 list of this year and maybe turn it on its head a little bit, because this is a solid 86 out of 100 disc, so it's still a damn solid listen. It's a very enjoyable listen, and it has replayability, which is a certain positive for any album. But I want to know what you guys think about Purple from Baroness. I want to know what ran through your mind whenever you listened to this for the first time and how that differed after you ran through it again. Let me know in the comments below. I am coverkillernation. We have just one more thing left to do now here in 2016. It is now time for the December to Dismember, the List Mania, to begin. I hope you guys are ready, because there's going to be at least 5 or 6 lists coming your way within the next week or so. Oh man, these are going to be big, and you're going to want to stick around. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, this is your first time ever watching a Cover Killer Nation video, hit that subscribe button so you can be a part of this and experience it. Experience what this is like, because this is honestly, wow, a really, really exciting time of year. I'll talk to you later. Peace.